Hi everyone, this is the Lockdown Lecture Series for Intermediate Viola, borrowed from the Alias Music Foundations course, adapted for the classroom setting. Let's jump into it. So last time we finished up our quality work and did some tempo work on the second and third movements. So I'm just going to pull those up and play through those, and you guys can play along with me. Kind of see how you're doing. So I'll take a little bit more of a, not quite full tempo, but a little bit more of a full tempo on this one. So you can play along and see if you can keep up. So if you can keep up, you're really ready for the next step on the next movement. So we're going to move on to the sixth movement, and you guys had an assignment to just kind of go through it and make sure you learned your notes at a sort of a moderate tempo. So I'm going to play through the sixth movement now. You guys can try and keep up with that one, and then we'll take a look at how we're going to practice this movement. So movement number 6. So that's our sixth movement. Now, as you've noticed from the recording goes quite a bit faster. You know, it would be. Now, we're not going to get to that tempo if we just use our metronome workup method. That's not going to work for us. And reason because for the most part, we don't have the clarity and control and strength even in our fingers to be able to hit those tempos. So let's take a look at a special drilling technique. Last time we took a look at our, actually this is back in our first movement, our vibrato conditioning technique. And that helped us kind of work vibrato into every note. And this special technique is known as rhythms reverse. It's sort of pioneered by the Russian violin schools. It's a really effective method for developing your velocity technique. So the idea is you take any group of notes with, this particularly works well for notes with homogeneous rhythms, so rhythms all the same, so like 4/8 notes, and you just start to group them in twos, and you make the first one long and the second one short. So like a dotted 8/16. And you just apply it to all of them. Long, short, long, short. You could go back to this piece and essentially just start applying long, short, and then continue long, short for all the notes. So it would sound like this. Here's the long, short rhythm. So there's long, short, long. And the more exaggerated you do the long, short, the better and more effective it is. So not long, short, long, but long, short, long, it works better. And then you would do the reverse rhythm, because essentially you have this increase of speed from the short to the long note, but not between these two notes. So now you just reverse them, and now you'll increase the speed from the short to the long note. So short, long sounds like this. I'll flip over here. Sounds like that's our short long rhythm. So here it is again. Here's the long short. Here's short long. Now if you're new to this, you may have to like almost even say it out loud, and you might have to say it out loud, but at least in your head be thinking long, short, long for like every note when you're playing it, and then, you know, switch and be short, long, short, long. Otherwise, you will confuse them. It seems simple, but you'd be surprised how much your brain fights you on this if you've never done this one before. So this is a really effective way to drill things because, you know, this is like the athletic part of music, just training your fingers to move faster. And it's effective because partially it causes you to memorize the music more quickly. You don't have enough time between the short and long to think about what note comes next. You have to start reading 2 notes at a time. When you go long and then short, long, I didn't have time to think about what note was a long note. I just had to kind of read 2 notes at a time. So you start grouping and memorizing things. And then it also just causes you to kind of look at things from different rhythms, and you'll know the notes a lot better. And the next most important thing about how we practice with rhythm is we have to start grouping it by beats, and we group it with our bowings. So in other words, we would start by doing rhythms reverse 4 on a bow. So that's like 1 beat, 4 on a bow, 4 on a bow, 4 on a bow. We just do all of it 4 on a bow. After we get good at 4 on a bow, we start doing 8 on a bow. So we'll do 8 on a bow rhythms and then reverse. And then finally we will do even 16 on a bow. And that just helps us take 1 beat and kind of group the music into single beats, and then 2 beats, and then 4 beats. So I will demonstrate kind of what the entire practice sequence will look like. First you'll do 4 on a bow, the first rhythm. Then you do the reverse rhythm. Then you do 8 on a bow, the first rhythm. Then you do the reverse rhythm. Then you do 16 on a bow. And so on, and then reverse rhythm. If you can get through the entire piece that way, you will know it really, really well. In fact, I recommend not practicing 1 section at a time when you're doing rhythms. I recommend at least stringing 2 or 3 sections together, if not the whole thing. Now, just one little bit of warning, you'll be used to practicing 8 on a bow already, except for the very last section, which is like 9 on a bow, then 8 on a bow. And then you'll be used to not changing bow at the same place. You should still practice grouping the bowing by beat. This will help you think of where the beat actually changes and not where the bow changes. Okay, so watch out for the bowing in that last section. One last little helpful hint. Usually after we do these slurred rhythms, sometimes we'll stop and do marcato rhythms. Marcato is a hammer stroke that we usually do at the tip. And we'll do rhythms. Reverse. And because you have to have this sort of a short attack with the bow hand, it will build back clarity into your left hand, because sometimes after doing a lot of these slurs, you will end up having sort of a mushy, fast but mushy left hand, and this makes it clear and crisp again. Let's see, one last drilling thing with our chords here, because we have 2 chords at the end. I'm going to take a look at how to condition our chords. It's our very last drilling technique. So with chords, what you would do is, whether it's a 3-note chord or a 2-note chord, a 3-note chord or a 4-note chord, our chord drilling technique is we're going to take the bottom 2 and then the top 2 notes separately, and we're going to kind of play them. This is like literally if you write out how to play a chord. and you're going to play them with a stop in between and then with no stop. And then what it does is it gives you a chance to balance out each chord. I'm going to use this chord as an example right here. And make sure the bottom of your chord sounds good, and then the top of the chord sounds good. So here's the bottom, here's the top. So I'm going to practice like saving my bow, playing in the right part of the bow, until I really like how it sounds, and then finally I will do it with no stop, and that's how we have a nice and rich sounding chord. So we kind of have two practice techniques that we learned in this lesson: our rhythms reverse practice technique, and then the chord practice technique, what's called breaking our chords. All right, so that's it for today's lesson. I will, your homework is to essentially drill that movement and see if you can get it up to a really full tempo. And we will take a little look at quality and assign the next movement at the next lesson. Happy practicing. See you next time.